Okay. Now move it, after you've hit enter, did you hit enter? Now move the cursor down below the line and hit enter again. Okay, look at the bottom. What does it have at the bottom? Hold on one second, let me get there on my... I'm going to have to change my window. Okay, on the bottom, what does it say after you hit enter? What are the words that show up down there? Does it say guess? Okay, hit enter one more time, and then what does it say?
-6.
-60. Okay, so I got this one. This one right here where it crosses is -60. Okay, so the 0 is -6. All right, now I've got to talk to you just for a minute because your calculator reads from left to right. So coming across here left to right, if you were going to take a parallel line down, the reason why we hit the top one first is because that's the one that we would come to first. Then we would come to this one. If you continue over when I go to do this again, because I'm going to hit second calculate and I'm going to do it again, this time I have to hit enter below it first and then above it because you're reading from left to right. Okay, so go ahead and do second calculate again and find this other 0. What is it?
3.
3. Okay, so then I have the point 30. So if they were asking for the solution to this equation, it would be -6 and 3. That is the 0, the roots, or the solutions of this equation. This is where that parabola crosses the x-axis. Is it kind of falling into place? Okay, so that's, you're going to graph by hand, but you're going to cheat and use your calculator to help you find your zeros. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, let's try another one. We'll do this one together again. Well, somewhat or other. Okay, we're still solving by graphing. Okay, there's going to be other ways to solve this, but right now we're solving by graphing. So let's say I have this equation, x squared, and sometimes they don't put an x there, they'll put another variable, but you understand that it means the same thing as x. All right, so I've got this one. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to graph it. So I'm going to find the axis of symmetry. A -3 over 2 times 1. So my axis of symmetry is 3 over 2, or +1.5 this time. So I'm going to put a dotted line halfway between the 1 and the 2. That means my vertex, if I'm looking, so this is my axis of symmetry. X is equal to 3 over 2. I also need my vertex in order to graph it. Now, how am I going to find my vertex? I know the x value. Whoops. The x value is 1.5. How am I going to find the y value? How did I find the y value?
Plug in the equation.
I'm going to plug it into the equation. Now, I'm going to use my calculator to do that. Okay, I'm going to use the store button on my calculator. So I'm going to take the 1.5. And I'm going to store it for x, and then I'm going to have a colon, and then I'm going to put the equation in there. And this time I'm going to get a -21.25. Did everybody get that? Do it until you do. Okay, you didn't get that. Okay, let's see what happened. Um, Oh, you didn't store for X. Okay, you left out the X, so I'm gonna insert, and I'm gonna put an X there, and then it should work. Well, hold on one second. Maybe I stored in the wrong thing.
Yeah, I got the same thing twice.
What'd you get, -30.25? So I must have hit the wrong button on that. Let's see what I stored. Oh, I stored a negative in there. Okay, so it is -30.25. Okay, everybody good with getting that? Okay, the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put this into your calculator to graph it. Okay, so under y equals, you're gonna put that in. Now, there's a strong possibility you're gonna have to change your window. So see if you can do that so that you can see the whole graph. Oh, actually that one, it should, if your window's the same as what it was, it actually should work on that. All except for the very tip of it, maybe. Okay, now find your zeros. Okay, using that graph, find the zeros on your graph. So what you got? Here's what you got. Everybody get that? That's not what you got. Okay. Now remember, you are going to have to, okay, something happened on your, well, maybe not. Okay, I'm going to change your window a little bit so you can see it, okay? Alright, so I changed your window so that you would zoom in on it a little bit different. Okay, I want to go second, calculate. Come down to where it says 0. Okay, now remember, I'm going from left to right. When I go from left to right, I would hit the top of that. I would hit above that line first. So I got to find my cursor. See the cursor? Can you see that little? Okay. So I'm going to come above here. I'm going to make sure it's above the line first because that's where I would get to if I was reading from left to right. I hit enter somewhere above the line. Then I move the cursor down because what you're doing is you're telling the calculator to find the 0 between those 2 points that you just hit enter at. Okay, it says guess here. I'm going to hit enter one more time, and that's where I'm going to get the -4 from. Okay, then I want to find this side. So I go second, calculate again, go down to 0. I'm going to hit the arrow key. Okay, this time I'll get to below the line first if I'm reading from left to right. Okay, so there's one spot, and then I want to hit above the line. I get a guess down here. I'm going to hit again, and it gives me my 7. Okay, so that would be the answer for that. Okay, it says solve by graphing -4 and +7. Okay, now there are sometimes some issues with this. Okay, as far as graphing it goes. Let me show you one of those. Actually, yeah. Okay, what's the first thing I'm gonna do? I'm gonna have to move the 9 over, because I have to get it in the right positioning. Okay, so I have that. Now I can find my axis of symmetry. Okay, my axis of symmetry is a -6 over 2 times 1. So I have 6 over 2. What's 6 over 2 equal to? 3. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so somewhere on that line is gonna be my vertex. And then when I plug that 6 back into the equation, I've got 36 minus, let's see, I'm gonna plug in the 3, 18 plus 9. Okay, so I have a 36, no, I didn't do that right. So I'm gonna plug in 3 there, so that's 9 minus 18 plus 9. What's that equal to? 0. Okay. So here's my vertex. Oh. Okay. If my vertex is my solution, I have a bit of a problem to graph it. Okay, I know what the answer is. The answer is 3. That's my solution. Because my parabola comes down and it just touches it one time. And then it goes back up. So my vertex and my solution are the same here. So how am I going to figure out how to graph this thing? Because it says solve by graphing. I don't have 2 more points that I can do it by. So I need a point on both sides of that vertex. So I want to plug in 2. So I plug in 2 into this. So I'm going to get a 4 minus 12 plus 9. So that's going to give me a -8. That's going to give me a 1. So I have a 1 right here at 2, 1. Then I'm going to plug in a 3. So actually no, I'm going to plug in a 4. I already know what the 3 is. So let me plug in the 4. I'm going to have a 16 minus 24 plus 9. Okay, 16 minus 24 is an, let's see, -8 plus 9 would give me a +1. And there would be my graph. Okay, so if I can't get those zeros, or I can't get 2 other points, then I have to plug a point in on each side of my vertex. Okay, so it just depends on the equation.
So the answer is?
The answer is 3. Yeah, the answer is 3, but when it says solve by graphing, you still got to show me the graph. Okay, so you might have one that's up here, and you're going to have to do the same thing on that. You're going to have to find your axis of symmetry, plug a point in on both sides to be able to get your graph, but then your solution would be empty set, because it would never cross. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, now there is easier ways besides graphing. Graphing is my least favorite way to solve these things. So let's go on to the second way of solving these quadratic equations. The second way would be by factoring. Okay? Now, let me go back to the very first one we did. Alright, that was the very first one we did. Let's say I said solve that by factoring. Okay? Now remember the last chapter, if I have a trinomial, I'm going to put it into 2. First I'm looking to see if anything can be factored out of it, which it can't. Okay? And I'm going to put it into 2 sets of parentheses. What times what equals x squared? Okay, so I have x and x. What can I multiply together to get 18? 6 and 3. Okay, now I could have chosen 9 and 2, but 9 and 2 is not going to work ultimately. Okay, so 6 and 3 is actually going to give me exactly what I want, because I have a 3x and I have a 6x. I want a positive 3x when I finish, so that needs to be negative. So I put a negative here, a positive here, make sure my last still works, which it does. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. All right, so factoring, I mean, that's why I never say blow off the chapter on factoring, because you're going to keep using it. So I'm going to set both of these equal to 0, because if this is equal to 0, the whole thing is equal to 0. If this parenthesis is equal to 0, the whole thing is equal to 0. So x plus 6 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. X equals negative 6, x equals positive 3. There's my solution, my zeros, where it crosses the x-axis. And I never drew anything. I'd much rather do factoring than what I do graphing. But sometimes they tell you you have to solve by graphing. Now, truthfully, you could have used a combination. Okay, let's say you could factor it. The only other thing you would need would be the vertex. If you find the vertex and you have those 2 points that it's going to cross, that gives you 3 dots that you can make the parabola out of. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, just on a sheet of scrap paper, I want you to solve this by factoring. Don't forget, that's supposed to have an X on it. I'm sorry. That should change things. I just left off the X. Okay, you know what that means? It means you have a parabola. I don't really know exactly what it looks like, but I know that it comes down here and touches the graph at negative 5. Okay, so you kind of hopefully see how it all falls together. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you classwork slash homework, because there's a third way, but I want to make sure you have these first 2 ways down. Okay. And while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and grade the test so that then we can go over those tests. Okay, so we're doing things a little backwards today. Okay, so right now, what I want you to do is page 339. I want you to do 16 through 42 even. And I want you to do page 344, 12 through 34 even.